So I think what would happen if you were in a restaurant in China is they would give you a bowl with the bread in it, and then you would go back to your seat and then just rip up the bread into small pieces, bring it back, give it to them, and then they would finish preparing everything and like cooking it in a little bit of broth, adding noodles, and then giving it back to you. So this Xi'an noodle dish 100% depends on the broth. And of course, originally it was made with lamb, so they're able to impart a lot of flavor by cooking this really long. Now, as vegans, we got our job cut out for us, right? We have to use the correct ingredients when we're making something like a savory broth. So I have some carrots, I have some scallions. My main things to impart just something that's very meaty is going to be turnips, and it's going to be mushrooms. Those kind of root vegetables, those very earthy vegetables are going to impart that very kind of meaty, very savory flavor. So, in addition to that, I'm going to add the two star ingredients, and that's going to be fennel and Sichuan peppercorns. Recipe is going to be down below. The brilliant thing about vegetables does not take that long to impart the flavor. So, I would say probably about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour, actually. And you don't want to kind of turn the heat on too high, just like a nice light boil works. And then afterwards, just let it cool, let the rest of the flavors come out. Now we're going to make some of the Chinese style flatbread. I've done this with you before, so I'm going to put the link down below and up above. But essentially, you just want to prepare that while the stock is cooling. Some people actually say to cook this like 90% because later on you're going to be putting the bread into broth, so that'll continue cooking some more. But just make a couple flatbreads. This particular dish is so unique just for the reason here. So, again, what the restaurants will do is they'll actually give you a piece of flatbread and you go on over to your seat, you get kind of involved in the cooking, and you just want to rip these up into kind of like pea sized pieces. I heard a local say that you know when somebody's a foreigner when they rip their bread into super big pieces because the locals they keep it like nice and small, and then when you cook it, I guess it just has better texture. But we're also going to be making it a little bit bigger just for food photography's sake. But know that know that the locals like to keep that small. And then we're going to prepare the rest of the ingredients that's going to go into this noodle dish. So, again, because we're not working with meat, we're going to have to just play around a little bit to impart that flavor. And what I love is working with yeast extract. It's not nutritional yeast, this is yeast extract. So, it's like Marmite. And if you have Marmite, just use that. You're just going to end up adding, less salt later. But I'm just going to dissolve the yeast extract in about 1 cup of water. And then afterwards, you can use whatever you want. So I have some of these like soy slices that I found at the Asian grocery store. You can use soy chunks, very readily available in grocery stores. And just let that kind of soak for an hour until the texture softens. So now we have some of the very typical ingredients that go into this noodle dish. The first one is wood ear mushrooms, and I'll put a link down below, but usually they come dried and you just rehydrate them for, half an hour or so. And then we have rice noodles, which are typically the noodles that are used in this dish. In terms of the broth, it smells so savory. There's so much flavor that has been imparted. So I'm just gonna make about two bowls or so. So I'm gonna take kind of half this amount and strain out all of those seeds that are in there, and then you can work with just the broth. So now we are putting the dish together, and I'm adding in the meat pieces along with that yeast extract, and when those two combine, you are going to get a broth that is out of this world. If you did happen to use Marmite, it has a fair amount of salt in it already, so just make sure to kind of taste as you go. And then if you found one that was just yeast extract and it didn't have salt, depending on how much broth you're making, I'd maybe start off with a teaspoon of salt and then see how you like it from there. So usually what happens after you bring the bread pieces back to the chef is they actually just put everything together. So they'll put the noodles, the bread, the mushroom, the meat pieces all into the broth and then just really quickly serve it from there. But because I'm looking to make a bit of a neater presentation, I'm doing this one at a time. And so I'm saving the bread for the very end because this is the star. And you just really want to cook it for about a minute, maybe like a minute and a half, just so that the bread soaks up some of the flavors of the broth. Just softens a little bit. You don't want it to go too overboard. And then just start assembling your dish. Oh, how gorgeous does that look? It took me a while to figure out the presentation and the dishes that I want, but I love how this looks. And of course, you just want to wish it around, get all of those textures. For me, I'll say that the bread, I don't like it cooked as long. It's interesting because it's kind of soggy-esque bread with noodles, but it's quite cool. And then of course you get that amazing broth that we spent a good bit of time on. But those turnips and all of those root vegetables and mushrooms really make it, I would say, on par with some of the longer, meat broths that take hours to make. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this Yang Rou Pao dish. I really enjoyed, researching it and trying to put it together kind of vegan style. So if you guys want to see more recipes like this, remember to like and subscribe. If you want to support the channel some more, I have my Patreon link down below as well. And so I hope you guys all have a lovely rest of the weekend, and I will see you guys all again real soon. Bye.